And no, hang on. So no, this isn't on. So I can do what you told me to do, which is unmute it. Nice, yeah. Cool. Welcome, everyone. I'm Jamie. I'm the organizer of EdinburghJS. And I'm really pleased to welcome a whole lot of new faces tonight. So thank you to the Edinburgh UX group for cross-promoting this event. So if you're never been to a JavaScript meetup before and are wondering about code and confused, hopefully this will actually be a nice sort of introduction to the kind of things that we as engineers do. And I hope this will be the first of many collaborations between our groups, since we are a small community in Scotland. Just a couple of things. The first thing I want to do is just give a little word about Scottish Technology Club. So EdinburghJS and GlasgowJS are run by me and a team of volunteers, and I run Scottish Technology Club, which kind of sits over the top of that. So if you go to the website, scottishtechnology.club, you'll find every Monday I sit down at my desk and I produce a little bulletin of content. What's in that bulletin? There are blogs and vlogs from people who are based in Scotland on a variety of technology issues that ranges from like JavaScript code things to kind of engineering, soft skills, UX, all those sorts of things. So I publish those in the bulletin. So if you write a blog or vlog, please do let me know, and I'm happy to feature people's writing. And I also scrape Eventbrite, Meetup, Luma, people's websites that they give me for events that are on. So if you're looking for tech events across Scotland, every Monday I publish them. There's a 3-week view list of what's on. I also segment it by topic, and for events that are live streamed, I also try and get the live stream link so that if you're interested in a particular topic and didn't make it, you can look back and kind of find that. So that's on the topics page. The other thing that we do, this year we've just kicked off a speaker launchpad program. So if you haven't spoken at an event before, it isn't just JavaScript exclusive, it's any kind of event. We will provide you with mentors who will maybe give you feedback in your talk, help you select a topic or whatever. And in fact, our first graduate of the program, Ryan, did a talk last week at GlasgowJS, little thumbs up because it was good. Yep, thanks Ryan. So if you're interested in that, check that out on the website too. You can find that scottishtechnology.club. Downstairs in reception, there's a banner with the QR code. Scan that on the way out. Sign up to the bulletin. Join the Discord server. Thank you to no longer Travel Perk, but Perk, who sponsored this event, for hosting us. Steve is just going to say a little bit of words about what Perk do. So, Steve.
Thank you. Hello, welcome to the Perk offices. If you've been here before, we were Travel Perk, but we have grown our missions, and now we're not just dealing with business travel, we're also dealing with expenses and events. And yeah, we continue working on everything to do with getting people together for work, essentially. And yeah, we are hiring. There is a QR code there. If you're interested, we use React for the front end. We also use Python, but we are not technology focused. We are agnostic. We're looking for people who can solve problems. So yeah, if you are interested, we have a lot of great engineers here and are always looking for more. So just scan the QR code and you can see the positions. We have open positions here, or if you're open to relocating, Barcelona, Birmingham, and many other hubs. Thank you.
We really appreciate the sponsorship of Perk, so please do check out their open roles. They sponsor us because they get good people out of it, hopefully. And yeah, so the more that we can keep in touch, the better. Now for the main event of the evening. I've seen Fanny speak a couple of times before, and it's always been great, so no pressure. So, Fanny, everybody.
Thank you. Hello, yeah. So, hello everyone. My name is Fanny. And today I want to talk to you about user experience and accessibility. Myself, I'm a mobile developer mostly. I also do a bit of Node.js. But what makes me really want to talk to you about accessibility is because like 5 years ago, I started to work on application with a big focus on accessibility. For example, I work on an application used by people with Alzheimer, and they help us to help them like reduce the mental loads of helpers and also have people with Alzheimer disease like being autonomous like longer than they could. Then I work also on another application. I'm still working on this application used by blind user, and basically this application just come to help them for every usage that are not accessible at the moment. For example, wanted to know like your next bus, when it's coming and is it late, or the train and traveling things, lots of things around audiobook and stuff like that. So these two main experience and few others I had with other clients made me realize how much, like when you look at an application, you look through the eyes of accessibility, you actually realize some basic user experience issues, and it gives you like tips to argue with your product owner or things like that to make this user experience better. And just, yeah, not talking about application design for the moment, but here we have this door lock. Please raise your hand if sometimes you struggle with this kind of door lock, or someone in your household. Yeah, so I just moved here in the UK, and I don't know, in my flat I have many doors look like this, and some I have to just turn them on the left and some on the right to open the doors. It seems like it's difficult to like install this kind of door lock. And also my kids, they are 4 and 6 years old, they don't have enough strength to open these doors, so they can't, like, if they are locked in the bedroom, if I don't come, they just stay here, which can be nice, but maybe not really good for security. And what I think about when I see this door lock is like, during the design of this door lock, if they had thought about accessibility, they may have realized that people with issue to use their hands, strength issue, or just like someone who doesn't have hands, they may have realized that accessibility problem. And you see that it's an accessibility issue, but at the same time, it's an accessibility issue for people without disability. Here, this woman carrying lots of packages, she can't open the door with her elbow, or my kids, again, they can't open these doors. So yeah, today we're talking about accessibility, and for once we are not talking about accessibility like with the focus on visual or motor impairment, but we will focus on cognitive issues. Few statistics first. I like to start my talk with that. Accessibility in the UK, it's almost 1/4 of the population that care disability. And if we focus on mental health, like brain issues, we see that in the last decade, people carrying disability, it grows from 16% to 34% of disabled persons carrying and having mental health issue. And another statistic I really like to share is like by age group, which disability is the most common. And for children, mental health issue is the most common disability, with 32% of the disabilities. If we look at working age adults, it's again mental health with 47%, followed by mobility. Here you directly see that we can care multiple disability. That explains both percentage being so high. And it's only for older adults that mobility impairment become the most common disability. So looking at this percentage should make you realize how important they are in a spread in the population. And again, a bit of definition, because we hear about mental illness, intellectual disabilities, cognitive disabilities, what are there, and what people are concerned. So first, mental illness. What the tips I have to remember the difference here, it's the illness keyword here. So basically, it's a diagnosed condition that will affect emotion, psychological, and psychiatric well-being of someone. The intelligence is not impacted. It's just like the way people with, depending of a situation that might affect their moods or the way they would think, and and their ability to focus. So few examples, bipolar disorders, schizophrenia, and burnout are in this category of cognitive disability. Then we have intellectual disability. This is a lifelong condition. So here we are talking about lifelong condition. Before we were talking about illness, and illness can be cured or helped with therapy. Here we have a lifelong situation, so it will last all your life, but it can be like help with therapy and like things. The characteristic of intellectual disabilities is people have below average intellectual ability, and learning new things and managing daily tasks can be difficult. So an example can be Down syndrome. And last category is cognitive disability. I often use cognitive disability to talk about like all this category because they all impact what we call cognitive functions. So cognitive disabilities are specific disabilities that affect specific cognitive functions. Let's see some example: ADHD, Alzheimer, or dyslexia. We see ADHD, for example, will affect the way people focus. Alzheimer will affect memory, and dyslexia, reading. And these are the cognitive functions. So we all have different cognitive function and different ability to use them. So there is memory, language, thinking skills, learning skills, intelligence, problem solving, decision making, and perception. Attention is the last one. And so cognitive disabilities, mental illness, and intellectual disabilities all impact cognitive functions. But let's come back to us as developers or UX designer, UI designer, and like anyone working on a digital project. Now we realize that people having this cognitive issue, they might face issue to understand your application, to maintain focus, or to make a decision in your application. The good news is that there is lots of studies and documents to understand how we can make our UI better for them. So we will see 6 key principles, and starting with the first one, having a clear organization in our apps. So first tips is to have clear and logical hierarchy and enough spacing. I will show you during all this presentation bad example and good example in application. So as I'm a mobile developer, you will see lots of mobile application, but like if you are a web developer or just like, it's the same practice, but on a smaller screen. So here, let's see why I think the organization is not clear for this app. So this is La Redoute application. It's a French web e-commerce application to buy furniture. And let's see, I want to buy this bed. And for the moment, the screen seems fine. There is the picture and a bold title for the name of the product and the button add to basket. For the moment, it's okay. So let's pretend I want to buy it. So I click on add to basket. And then this, what we call the bottom sheet, comes on top of this screen. And we can see it's written, we think you will love, and lots of other products I didn't request it. And only at the bottom, on top of this bottom sheet, there is a small, what we call the snack bar. And the problem I see here is like, after clicking on add to basket, the main thing I want to know is my project being added to my basket? I want a confirmation for that action. And it's actually the last information on the screen, and it's melted with other information, like other product I didn't requested. And again, put yourself in the situation of people that have issues, trouble to focus. It can be disturbing. So what could we do? sorry, Amazon. I try to find another example, but it's hard to find examples. So I understand, like, this is a marketing thing showing of a product, and your marketing team will probably say, oh, but we want to push the user to buy more things. So first advice, try to say to them, oh, but it's not good because it's too many information and it's hard to focus and it's overwhelming. If it's too difficult, one good practice here could be just to move the added to basket, the confirmation, on top of the screen. Next good practice is enough time. What does it mean? It means that you have to give enough time to your user to read and to use the content. Again, let's see at the La Redoute application. Again, with this snack bar here, it will actually disappear after a few seconds. So the user don't have enough time to read the information, to scan all things on the screen, to focus, and to just have the confirmation is or she is looking for. And this is a problem, of course, for people with cognitive issue, but I will just also mention people with low vision, because it's still about accessibility. If you are with low vision and using a magnifier, if you're actually at the moment magnifying your screen on the top, you don't see that there is something at the bottom, and then it disappears. So you don't have also the information, the confirmation of your action. So again, the Amazon example. If you find another example, I would like to update this example. Next topic is understandable. And we should use short sentences, simple words, and easy to read text. And sorry, it's in French, but you will understand. This screenshot is from an application I use for my kids, so they can listen to audiobooks. And there is a parental zone, and to access this parental zone, what I need to do is type this full sentence number in the key, in the number pad. First, it's asked me like an effort to transform, to read it and to transform it to numbers. And it's particularly like difficult in French, because here it's written 97. But in French, 97, we say 97, which is literally 4, 20, 10, 7. So when I read that, it takes me lots of effort, because I really want to write 4, 20, 10, 7. So even for me, I don't have any cognitive issue. I struggle with that. So for someone with cognitive issue, it's really difficult. And again, when you think of this kind of user, they might fail. They probably fail, because I fail often on this screen. And having your user failing in one action in your application is bad, because they will have bad feelings, probably just reject your application, and probably also feel worse than before using your application, because yeah, their emotion is really how to manage. So I try to find a good example. What I like here in the Trainline application is they use really simple words, and we understand the different part of the screen. There is the where title, the when, and passenger is short and it's understandable. What I really like also in this application is in the when part, it's not written what date, like the 19th/11. It's written today. It's easy like to put yourself in the right situation. And for the time, it's not written like 7 p.m. It's written now. And this also helps the users to find out where am I in the time. Predictable. So no surprise for the user, and consistency across screen, and logical reaction to the user action. Back to La Redoute, sorry. So I'm not sure if I want to buy this bed. I might want to just add it to my wish list. So let's click on the heart icon on top. And this appears. So I want to add it to my wish list, and I have to pick up a size. Why? Then, okay, I pick up a size, and then this happens. Existing customer email, password, login, blah, 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 or continue with Facebook and or Google, or create my account. And the obvious thing is, okay, I want to add to my wish list, and I have to go first to pick for a size. Why? I have to log in. Why? The other thing here is there is no confirmation that I'm still going to the adding to the wish list process. Nothing's ensure me that at the end I will be able to add it to my wish list. And if you think of someone with memory issue, maybe I just don't remember actually what I was going to do and can be confused about what's happening here. So we understand, again, marketing team might want to get the user email. So a simple thing just could be just to say, oh, we'd love to save your bed to your favorite, but you need to log in first. Like we are confirming to the user, okay, you are going to put this product in your wish list, but first you have to do that. Like we keep the context on the screen. Next one is adaptability, and it's about putting on your screen information differently depending on the device and the context. Basically, adaptability in development and UI development in general means you have to adapt if you are displaying content on a computer or a phone or a watch. You can't put everything on the screen. And here is the Temu, you say Temu? Yeah, Temu app. And it's overwhelming, lots of information on the screen, and specifically here we have part of the screen free shipping information. There is something else like why choose Temu. There is like small icon next to each product, the small marker icon. And another thing, together for better delivery, blah, blah, blah. And what I suggest here, or another thing about free shipping, and it's overwhelming because we see product and at the same time all this information on the same screen. So a good practice could just have this information like in another part of the screen with here the small bell icon showing you some notification. We could put here like, oh, by the way, we have an offer, free delivery with blah, blah, blah. And the question mark could also like have all this kind of information. It sounds really basics, but it's accessibility best practice. And last, multiple ways to understand. So we should use visual text and in some situation, audio to help user to understand. Not only visual, not only text, both, it's probably the best. So an example here with the Duolingo app. We have here what we call the bottom bar on the bottom with lots of icons and no text with this icon. And to be honest, I don't recognize, like they are not like widely known icon, and the app relies on the concept that the user will memorize them and being able to know that, I don't know, I can't even describe those icons. Like the pink chair is, I don't know, my profile. So it relies on the fact that the user will memorize this information. And again, if you have cognitive issue affecting your memory, it's disturbing. So a good practice here in the BBC application, you see there are some icons here and text. So having icon and text help people, the icon helps people to understand faster, but at the same time, if the icon is not explicit, the text helps give more context of what the plus is actually doing. And it also helps give, it also gives like the vocabulary. We say vocabulary in English? Yeah. Okay, let's move to some really focused best practice when you're designing your application. First is reducing cognitive overload. An example here, it's a design I've made for us. You're creating an icon on an application, and we have a complex task. We need lots of information from the user, and we should split this complex task into step-by-step action. A good accessibility practice is to put on top, like, okay, you are on the third step on 5, and this step is regarding your personal details, rather than a long screen with all information. Second tips is no time pressure. We see here at the bottom there is a button save and finish later. So it's a good practice to give the opportunity to your user to just stop at one moment if it's feeling overwhelming, maybe from your app or maybe from something outside of what's happening on the phone. Giving the user the opportunity to just, okay, I can rest, I can stop and come back, and I will not have to start again from the beginning. And depending on your platform, it can be like explicit or it can be implicit. Like on WhatsApp, you start a message, then you don't finish your message, you go back on the conversation, the message is still here. You haven't done anything to save it. Building a clear content hierarchy using title and subtitle titles, logical order, and grouping connecting items together. This again sounds obvious, but they are actually practical tips for accessibility. The last one, group connected items together. For example, every time you have a form input, like a text field, it's a good practice to have the label with associated with this text field really close to it. And maybe the less obvious one is regarding here the checkbox, or sometimes we have like the toggle switch icon things. Most of the time in application you have the text and the checkbox like right at the end, or the toggle right at the end. This is really difficult for user to make a connection between the text and the related checkbox or toggle. So here you see the checkbox is, the text is right after the checkbox. It makes it easier. And you see this pattern you go to your iPhone or your Android phone, you go to the settings, you see this bad practice. And again, if we step out and go back to the people with low vision, imagine you're using a magnifier on your screen. If you want to go from the text to the related checkbox, you have to zoom and stay on the right line to find the associated checkbox, which make it also easy, not easy. And use spacing between elements. Simplicity and readability, I'm going to go really fast on that because I have a few tips after. So short sentences and clear language, sufficient contrast ratio between the text and the background. Here I just set the WCAG ratio. We will talk about that later. And using a readable font. Keyboard management. So using autocomplete, sorry, content type thing is an Android thing. I forgot to remove it for you. Using the appropriate keyboard type for the expected input. I found out that in web development it's the way to do it. And I actually saw that you have to put the type and input mode together, because input mode is used on iOS, and sometimes if you put only the type, it will not pick the correct keyboard on iOS. So make sure to also test on both platform, your website or your native application. and autocomplete, or yeah. And again, don't rely on memory, so autocomplete is a good thing. For password, use like KeePass features, things like that, or log in with Google or something like that. Predictability and consistency. Similar screen structure across pages. Here you see we are on the 4th step. Design is still the same. Button still always look the same way in my app. My negative button always are, I don't know, red. My positive button I always like blue. And negative button in the model, in the pop-up are still on the left, for example, like predictable actions. And use universally recognized icon. Sometimes just an icon can be enough, but icon with text is, of course, like the best way because it gives more clue to the user. And no sudden interface changes, like, you know, those applications where you're doing something and then you have a pop-up coming out of nowhere to ask you to accept or not the cookie policy or things like that. Make sure like it's part of an onboarding on your application. Meaningful label. So here the tips are using explicit context. So we have this screen here, and we can type a destination to find an hotel, and the texts are really explicit. Where are you going? And a small second text to give more context about that. Persistent input labels. I'm sure you know this tip. When your input is filled, just the label should still be there, so you remember, you can what's the meaning of this input. I'm sure we all experimented this issue on website. And the button here is not just not submit, but find an hotel, being explicit again in the labeling your button. Do I have another example? I think I have another example. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the other example is about explicit context. I have 2 tips to know if your screen have enough context. So I talked to you about the application for the people with Alzheimer, and we were designing an application to put the user events, like having a medical appointment, blah, blah, blah. And we talked with Apple about cognitive accessibility, and they gave us a really good tips, like imagine you're doing something on your app. For example, you're creating an event, and then someone called you, your mom, your dad, and you spend like 10 minutes, 15 minutes on the phone. You hang up, and you're back to the previous screen, and how long will it take you to just remember, oh yeah, that's what I was doing? And the longer it takes you to just go back to the previous situation, that means that your screen probably lack of context. And I don't have the screen in English we had before, but what we have made just after is as simply as adding here a label on top. You are creating an event, and it makes it explicit. What are you doing? And the design is still nice, and we remove like also some overwhelming information on the screen. I have another tip for that. I don't have any screen, but I work a lot, I told you, for people who are blind, and sometimes when I test an application with only the screen reader, hearing only the text on the screen without having like the design clue we use, for example, sometimes we use tags design, you know, like you have a text and it looks like what we call a tag. And when you don't have these visual clues, UI visual clues, sometimes it's like hard to actually understand what's the meaning of what's happening on the screen. So a tip could be like sometimes try your screen with a screen reader, don't look at it, and make sure you understand what's what is happening on the screen, because only hearing some words, it's sometimes like difficult. I can show you a screen later. I don't have it on this slide, sorry. Yeah, so few tools and resources regarding cognitive accessibility. First, there is an European guide called Information for All. It's available in multiple languages, and it gives you around like 40 best practices around language best practice. Few examples using positive language is a good practice. So, for example, saying complete your profile to proceed rather than do not leave your profile incomplete. It's harder to understand negative sentences for some people. Clear and easy to read fonts. So simple and distinct letters, consistent spacing, and no decorative strokes. Few examples here. The best one is Open Dyslexic. Of course, it has been designed for people with dyslexia. But also Roboto is like a mainly used font, which is also good. And Attington is the one I'm using in the presentation, has been designed by the Braille Institute, making it easy to read for people with low vision. Use lowercase. It's easier, again, for some people to read lowercase letters. Prefer not non-contractions sentences. For example, does not instead of doesn't. And another one, write numbers as digit. For example, 3 new messages with 3 as a number. And avoid italics, again, for some people with reading issue, it's harder to read. User testing and emulators. Sadly, there is no magic tools for you to experiment or test your UI and make sure it's accessible from the cognitive point of view. So the best practice is to test with real users and build accessibility skills across your teams, starting guidance and making it evolving with time. And next good practice is to integrate accessibility in your agile practice, not only on the developer side, but UI and UX side. If you already have an agile process, adding it to your definition of done, few practices, and then like sprint after sprint, like adding new best practices. So you make sure that accessibility is just like not one day thing, and then we just move to the next topic, and our application just is accessible for a few days, and then we forgot everything. A good practice I've seen in bigger companies is having an accessibility master. The same way you have a Scrum Master, you have someone in your team that can be a volunteer and is carrying the accessibility best practice and making sure that everyone knows and everyone is applying what we decide to do. And it also can be a rolling role, like not always the same person. We can switch it every few months. And yeah, collaborate with accessibility experts sometimes make you like gain lots of times because they have lots of experiences and might help you find the best way to tackle some issues. The WCAG, do you know about the WCAG? Yeah, so it's guidelines from the W3C. All I say today come from the WCAG. It doesn't matter if it's web in the name. Even me as a native app developer, I use them because the guidance are the same. It's just the only difference is the way to test and audit a real application, as technically it's not the same tool. Well, the way to audit is different, but the best practices are the same, and they have lots of examples regarding cognitive accessibility. So if you, again, you need tools to help create best practices in your company, it's a good starting point. quick recap, and if you want to just remember all things I said today, it's probably the slide to take a picture of. So we talk about clear organization, having logical order, group connected item together, spacing, title and subtitles, and persistent input labels. Enough time, no time pressure, save the progress locally. Understandable with short sentences, explicit context, sufficient contrast, readable fonts, and explicit button text. Predictable with autocomplete fields and no sudden interface changes. Adaptability, complex task split into step-by-step actions and using the appropriate keyboard. And multiple ways to understand using not only text or not only icons, but both. And that's it. I hope I gave you lots of tips to tomorrow if you need some argument. We say argument in English? Yeah. Like you have the feeling you're in a meeting, you are designing a new feature, and you feel that there is something wrong with this UI or user experience. Well, maybe you will find the reason why in the accessibility best practice, and it gives you like good tips to have people following you on that. And again, I hope with all this example, you also realize that actually we made UI better for everyone, not only people carrying disabilities. Thank you for your attention. I'm really happy to be here with you. And if you have any question, do we have time for questions? Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's great.
I guess in your experience, do you find companies go for accessibility like straight off the bat when you start talking about it, or do you find it difficult to kind of present your case?
So lately, a law just applied last June, making more companies like they have to take care of accessibility because they will have fined otherwise. So this had made companies like thinking about accessibility from an economical point of view. I see that a lot. And what I see also sometimes, because I work with startups, and sometimes I say, oh, we should do that because of accessibility, blah, blah, blah. And they say, oh, for the moment, we don't care about accessibility. We just want to... And it's hard because you know that you need to train this person to just... and show them some examples that actually, okay, you say that, but I just want to prove you that it will actually have a good impact on the user experience and the UI. So it's hard to like work with this kind of people. But there is a nice free book online. It's called Giving a Damn About Accessibility. It's really short, like 40 pages, and there is like 10 personas of reaction of people regarding accessibility, and it gives you tips to convince them to care about accessibility. So giving a damn about accessibility is it's a nice way to start.
Awesome. Does anybody in the audience have any questions? Right, just a quick thing. The microphone that I'm holding is, as well as the room, is also for the live stream. So even if you're shouting, you need to speak into the microphone so the people in the live stream can hear the question and answer. So don't ditch this. Right, who had their hand up? Let's go some action then up to the back.
Should I start?
Yeah,
okay.
please.
Hi. So very few people talk about accessibility, to be honest. And I worked as a accessibility specialist in one of the company where I got trained, and then I started doing audits on several applications. And since you're talking about it, it's quite nice to hear. I also want to give a talk about this one. My question is, what kind of tools that you use to audit any software or applications or like some designs that you create?
So the tool I use on Android, I use Accessibility Scanner, which is like an application on the Play Store, and it audits some stuff for you, like the contrast and the size of element. Are they big enough? But it's just doing that, or it's not perfect, because if you put, for example, for a screen reader, an alternative text between an icon button, it will say, okay, cool, this icon has an alternative text. But if the alternative text is icon button, that doesn't make sense. And the tool is not giving you this. I'm working on an application I've developed that from a screenshot and using AI is able to actually spot this kind of issues. And it's actually like working well for, because after when I audit application, I just like take my phone and start a screen reader, zoom the text and just find all the issue like on my own. And I'm trying to find other tools rather than accessibility scanner that will help me spot some issue that I from the moment I need to have the context to find out if it's an issue or not.
Which app did you mention?
Accessibility scanner, and my app is still on my desktop, so for now I can show it to you after. I have it on my phone.
Okay.
It's an experimental thing, but if you're interested in it,
Yeah.
I'm happy to have people testing it.
Yeah, I've used most of the Chrome extension, like web accessibility and all those things.
As I'm a mobile developer, we don't have lots of tools because we can't. If you're auditing an application that you're not developing, you can't access the code. So it's all the tools are just based on UI or mostly based on UI, no coding thing.
Just last one. If you try to test application by yourself, like you said, zooming in, zooming out.
Yeah.
If you can see the screen, how would you test?
Sorry?
If you can see the screen.
Yeah.
And zoom in.
If I zoom, what the main test I do is on mobile. I set the zoom, not the zoom, but the font size to 200%, which is the requirement for accessibility. And I basically check that everything is still readable. And of course, the design will be probably a bit broken, but if things are readable, that's okay. But most of the time, like text are just cut off or like this kind of issue. That's why I'm. And again, I think my tool, it will be able to spot them. An AI is able to just, you show a screenshot and is able to say, oh, text is missing, that doesn't make sense. And until now, we needed someone to like zoom and see if it's still readable.
Okay, thank you.
We've actually got some questions coming in from people tuned into the live stream, which is great. So thank you for those. So Nicola asks if you have any recommendations for any short courses online that people might want to take.
There is one on LinkedIn Learning. There is one on LinkedIn Learning. Like if you just search accessibility.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, LinkedIn Learning. I don't have any more.
If anybody else in the audience has any tips, then please post it in the meetup group, just as a comment, for that. And there's a question on, do you have any tips for finding relevant user groups or conducting user testing on accessibility?
Okay, so is it someone with a French name in France? Because I have tips from France. But I just moved here, so I'm
not going to guess their nationality.
Yeah, Nicola was easy. So for the live stream people, if they are from France, because I just moved here in Edinburgh, so in France you can reach out to Valentin Ahui Foundation. If you don't have any users in your company, it's a foundation. I work for them, and they can help you test and audit your application and give you some tips for free. They won't use like lots of time to do that, but they give you some insight, and it's focused more on the visual impairment rather than the cognitive impairment. It's the only tips I have to reach like user.
Cool, and follow up as well, any suggestions for tools for doing accessibility audits for websites?
Anyone has tools for website to share?
Right, hang on, there's a bunch of audience contribution.
There is one tool called Wave, like W-A-V-E. It's a Chrome extension.
It's the same one. No, Andrew, it's the same one. Okay, cool.
Suggestion as well. I don't know if it's maybe the same process as what you're using for AI, but at the moment at work we're using Claude.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're using Claude to like generate a folder, let's say, with a bunch of various different user personas.
Okay.
And then giving Claude, feeding it screenshots, and then saying, right, okay, test these screenshots according to using this persona and using these accessibility guidelines or whatever. And then that does a really good job of automating a bunch of testing for a load of screens, and then giving you, spitting out like 3 different types of summary, like an executive summary, next steps, etc., etc. So that's an ongoing sort of thing, but it's really quite useful for us at the moment. So yeah.
Cool, good to know. I use Claude to code, but the application I develop, I use Gemini, because they have a light model that you can have on mobile application. Because my goal was to have this application like being able to be downloaded from the Play Store, and not with a technical background, and like someone auditing a random application will be able to use it. And I feed this application with the accessibility rules, so it's checking like really specific point regarding accessibility.
Can you say the name of the organization that you mentioned again?
Yes,
but slowly.
Valentin AUI, H-A, I say in French, sorry, H-A-U with dot, Y, Foundation.
Okay. Let's hope that's good.
It's the biggest, so I think we can find that the same here in the UK. It's the biggest French foundation for blind users. So basically, if you need some user feedback, they probably have some foundation here for specific type of disability, and they will be okay and actually eager to have you wondering how to make your app more accessible.
Cool.
But again, if you work in a big company, you probably have people inside your company carrying disabilities, so maybe try first, find out inside your company before reaching out to foundation that will do it for free.
Cool. We'll post the link onto the live stream chat, and we'll post it in the subgroup afterwards. Now there's some questions back here. One from Tony.
I'm going to take an opportunity to big up one of my friends' companies. There's a company called User Testing in Edinburgh, and this is precisely the kind of thing they do. So if you need an English-speaking company, then...
And they do that, like, as a company, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So their whole thing is, you know, this sort of stuff. My question is about screen readers, because I've often wondered, you know, are screen readers pretty consistent in the way they work? Like, is some brands will read certain tags, some brands will read others, or is there a pretty standard, you know, guidance on how to do it? Like, for example, if you set the alternative text in English, are all of them going to translate that, or do you need to also localize the alternative text?
Oh, you need to localize your alternative text, and there are also some situations if your text contains multiple language, you need to specify which part of the text is in which language. For example, Duolingo app, if you're learning Italian, but you're English, so you will hear some English and some Italian, and you don't want to have the screen reader reading Italian with an English voice and sounds. It doesn't make sense. So again, there are some specific information to set in the code to specify the different language. But yeah, you need to, the screen reader will not translate your text. It's like in your app, just translating text from scratch sometimes doesn't make sense. And you probably like seen that, like you send your text from your app to a company that translates all this, and they actually lack the context of the screen, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. It's the same for a screen reader.
Thanks for that.
Cool. We'll go to Andrew and then Alan.
Hiya. Oh, that's loud. Oh my goodness.
No, it's not loud.
I'll whisper, it's okay. I wondered, you kind of mentioned the EAA just briefly at the end, the European Accessibility Act.
Yeah.
Does that take into account cognitive disabilities, or is it, because I think it's mainly visual impairment, I think it tackles...
The WCAG where you have all this set of rules that an application has to follow to be certified being accessible, more or less. Of course, lots of rules are focused on visual impairment, but some are also focused on cognitive, like enough time is one rule from the WCAG, and lots of the thing I mentioned today comes from the WCAG. So, but there's still like some rules regarding like is the UI overwhelming? There is no rules that could assess if it's overwhelming or not. So there is nothing in the WCAG that will just assert that. And again, for the context, is this screen missing context? It's not something also you will audit. And I think it's like additional things that accessibility expert can just advise, but it's not in the WCAG checklist.
Cool. And did anyone else have a question? Cool. We'll go to.
Thank you, Fanny. It was a great talk. I really admire people who talk about accessibility, especially when coming from technical background and non-user experience. I wanted to add one organization to the list of the ones who assess accessibility. There's a charity, it's called Able Gamers. They assess video games, but it can be helpful to see what they pay attention to, how they do the assessment. They're really great. And I wanted to develop a question Jamie started about stakeholders, because yeah, it's still kind of a niche topic, and I don't know, were you lucky enough to work with stakeholders who don't need any, convincing or...
No.
Yeah, and so how do you have any tips and tricks how to... Would you rather recommend, positive language like, hey, this is really great for everyone, not just people with disabilities? Or would you rather use like, this would cost you business loss and stuff like that?
I think you have to match which person is the one in front of you. Is it concerned about the business? Is it concerned about like the product and want to be the best startup on? Like you have to find the persona and just give the good argument to them. I'm not the best person to do that because it's annoying me a lot when people say, oh, accessibility. Well, it's not for us for the moment because we want to focus on that. Yeah. So giving a damn about accessibility is a good starting point. If your job is probably to convince this kind of people, I'm lucky because I'm on the developer side. So I convince developer, which is much more easier because lots of developers are eager to make good things. And the thing I like also to do is make sure it's not only developers, so sharing practice with UI and UX and making people like stand together and find where is the limit between my responsibility, your responsibility, and finding a way to understand the other person's difficulties and not like arguing all the time. This is what I'm focusing on, and I find it easier to rather than stakeholders.
Thank you.
Cheers. And next question.
Thank you. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I just to say I'm a UX professional myself, and I 100% support user experience, making things easy for users. It just in practice. For example, I want to use one example that you give, which is Temu.
Sorry, Temu.
Yeah. The shopping site, right? So there are two things. That example covers two things. One is cultural background behind accessibility, and also the cost of accessibility on people with no accessible needs. So using that example, you could have two things. So for example, actually, if you ask me, I personally prefer the Temu site, even though people in this room may think it's very overwhelming. But it could be from my culture, or it could be that I also personally have cognitive issues, and I prefer to have a lot of information all in one place rather than them scattered all over the place. So for me, I prefer the Tamil than a simple site.
That's not the first time I'm hearing this argument, and I keep this because that's a valid argument depending of where your market is. If it's cultural to have this kind of screen, I never work on this kind of app, so I don't know if I will advocate to say, oh, maybe we should try to do something differently. But all the time I have people like you saying, oh, I feel more comfortable with that because culturally I'm used to this kind of design.
Yeah, so that's like echoes the usually the common instructions we give about making things simple. Simple is not always nice, and also in my practice, so for example, one of the instructions we give is short sentences, right? But in my use cases, the things we develop is the mobile version of big websites that has loads of information. So in our case, when you break the long paragraphs into small sentences, it actually makes it more difficult to use because you have to scroll so much. So I guess there's maybe a balance between, like you said, you always have to test it in real life.
The best thing, and lots of people here are from your user experience background, the best thing is having user testing your application. I could give you lots of advice, and all of them could just be like tackled by your user, which are different from like what are the accessibility best practice for like everyone in general. But if your type of user is this kind of persona, like probably some rules don't apply and actually has anti-pattern. So those things, as you say, user testing.
So one example I have a physical examples, right? So if you have multiple stairs that you have to use to get up somewhere, and usually in real life what we have is we have a ramp, we also have stairs, right? So that means we don't want people, but we're not replacing the stairs with ramps, even though people use ramps. But when it comes to digital design, and when we talk about accessibilities, what I observe is that a lot of times people only make the ramp for the argument of accessibility and not do the stairs.
But there is, I don't know the because I'm pretty sure in WCAG there is a rule saying you should provide multiple ways to do the same actions, so people can choose the one they are more comfortable with. So this is one rule in the WCAG. So
so that brings me to my question. So say, for example, you did the 2 user testing. One is with 10 users who don't have accessibility needs. One is with a group of users with accessibility needs. And say this design A, the normal user, quote, normal users are 70% satisfied, but the accessible, quote, users are 80% satisfied. But the design B, the normal user is 100% satisfied, and the accessible user is 50% satisfied. How would you make your decision? How much cost do you think would have for the normal users, for the accessible users?
Who will choose the 50, what do you say, the 100% is the B, and the A is like the 80%, right? So it decreased the normal, as you said, quote, people, but it increased the accessible users, and the one where accessible user are 100 and the other one, the normal people 50. Who will pick the 50-100? Raise your hand. Who will pick the 70-80%? You have another argument?
I think this argument is probably best left for the pub afterwards. So Alan's going to make one final point, and then we'll wrap up. So,
just a quick observation. I'm going to make an assumption you're Edinburgh JavaScript, correct? Okay. So this is a crossover meetup. So we've got about 50-50 EdinburghJS, 50-50 EdinburghJS, the other 50% is UX Edinburgh. And you said accessibility doesn't get brought up very much. I think you said that. So maybe just an interesting point to reflect on, especially if you're going to the pub. This is a good opportunity, especially if you're in the UX and accessibility space, to speak to a JavaScripter or vice versa, because no, it doesn't get brought up very much. And this is the benefit of doing a meetup like this, where we've got a pretty diverse set of perspectives. So.
Great point, and thank you, Alan, and thank you, Fanny.
Thank you.
Cool, so two things. One is I have hit send on the notification for a Christmas party. Every year EdinburghJS runs a Christmas party. This year I've branded it the Scottish Technology Club Christmas Party in the hope that other people will join us. So we are meeting on Tuesday the 16th of December at the Newsroom Bar, just in the centre of town at 7 p.m. Please RSVP so we know numbers, so we can set aside the right number of tables and chairs. But any UX person from UX Edinburgh, you're more than welcome. We'd love to have you there. I'm going to be sending out an invite to the other meetup groups in Edinburgh. It's just a really nice informal way of kind of relaxing at the end of the year, sharing information, and getting new perspectives. So if you join the meetup group, you should be getting a notification on that. And in the more immediate future, we tend to go to the pub after this meetup. That pub is the Fountain Bridge Fox, which is basically the first pub that you come to out on the street. I'm told there's football on tonight, so I can't guarantee what kind of atmosphere there is. But if we all go, then we can set the atmosphere. So thank you very much for coming. This is the last EdinburghJS of the year, aside from the Christmas party. Thank you to all the Travel Perk team, Tony, Gavin, Steve, Mar and Nuria for hosting us this evening. Thank you to the EdinburghJS team for the entire year's worth of work. So Alan doing all the live streams, Lupshay, Amadine, James, Joshua, for all your help during the year. I'm sure I've missed some people. But yeah, thank you very much and see you at the pub. Cheers.